Oh yeah, I've got my own.
Yeah, it's on the agenda. Tentative schedule, working with the assessment engineer.
Mission Springs Water District Board of Directors study session.
Okay,
January
what
16th.
what time?
The real time?
Yeah, real time.
2:57.
Oh, I know that one's fast.
Yeah. I change it within a couple of months. It's right back up again.
It's the battery, huh? Yeah, the battery operated.
Yeah, I think so. Almost.
3, 2, 1.
Got a minute and a half.
Hurry, run.
I want to make a note that I've been served with a subpoena for small claims court on accused of lying about the former president of the board. If you'd like, I'll look for the actual accusations. It'd be interesting to see what he has to say. I have asked him to stop lying about me multiple times.
All right.
What? It's not my problem. It's your problem. It's your majority you're losing. Go ahead. I know how important it is to you.
She has nothing to do with that and knows nothing about it.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Director Sewell.
Here.
Director Grasha.
Here.
Director Martin.
Here.
Vice President Duncan.
Here.
President Wright.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. We'll do number 4. We don't have anybody coming in today, but we do have some anniversaries and some certificates on here for this time, but no pins, no of that stuff. Okay. Yeah, public input. Would anybody like to address the board at this time on items that are not on the agenda today? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to number 6.
No, that's going to be handled on
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Thursday. Okay, number 7, Tuesday we're going to do number 6. So today we're going to do number 7, Resolution 2020-01, authorizing the filing of an application for a Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant Program, Round 3, planning grants for the Mission Creek Subbasin.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ledbetter is probably going to get up and say something, but while he's walking up, I'm going to tell you that this is an item that we would like action on today, simply because the deadline for the grant, and he might get into that somewhat, is looming at us, although we do, if we get this thing, if you decide that you want to do it, our timing is adequate. So I did tell them that I would try to get some action on this. It's fairly easy, I think, to make a decision. I mean, this is basically to substantially decrease the cost of the drafting of our what would I call it, renewal of our plans.
The alternative plan.
Alternative plan update. All right, Steve, I'll let you handle it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. General Manager. President,
Front.
I know it's different.
Wow.
President Wright, Board of Directors, thank you for having me out. If you recall, I was out in November to give a similar presentation, and at that time we were asking to augment the capital budget to create a line or a new project for the Mission Creek Alternative Plan update. As part of the SIGRM requirements from DWR, the Mission Springs Water District is required to update their approved alternative plan by January 31st, 2022. As part of that effort, CVWD, DWA, and Mission Springs are seeking grant funding under Proposition 68, Round 3, Sustainable Groundwater Management. That application was submitted back in November, as we presented back at the November board meeting. And in that application, Mission Springs submitted a letter stating their support for CVWD to act as the lead agency with DWR to get this grant funding. After the application submittal, DWR reached out and requested that both DWA and Mission Springs Water District pass a formal resolution authorizing CVWD to act on their behalf if they are, or if the Mission Creek is selected to receive grant funding. So what's in front of you today, this resolution more or less formalizes up to DWR standard that the district is acceptable to CVWD acting on their behalf for a grant for Sigma. No other requirements related to Sigma, specifically to the Prop 68 Round 3 grant if we are selected.
And just to note, this doesn't give them any more authority than any of the three of us. Just
No, it's
Eric will be the administrator. We've done this dozens of times.
IRWM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Typically, the lead agency passes a similar resolution where their board allows the agency to act on or to execute grant agreements with DWR. So they're just taking that one layer deeper and asking the supporting agencies or the other GSAs or stakeholders to pass a similar resolution. So that's what's in front of you today. Any questions I can help answer?
Do you have any questions?
No.
No? Thank you.
But I
Thank
do
you.
need
Thank you very
action on
much.
it today.
Okay, then I will.
Where the item?
And no questions, no comments. Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-01, authorizing the filing of an application for a Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant Program, Round 3, Planning Grant for Mission Creek Subbasin Modeling, Data Collection, and Alternative Plan Update.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just hope we get the grant now. Okay, number 8, resolution number 2020-02, adoption of the board handbook.
Oh, man, this is I have a conflict on this matter. So it is subject to litigation, so I'll have to recuse myself from this information.
Okay, we'll get you when we're done. Okay, I'll turn this over to the general manager. Anything else to say about this?
Well, nothing more than what I think is the obvious. We were given direction to do this board manual back in 2017, and I think Mr. Loesch can get up and answer any questions. You instructed us through a rather lengthy workshop on this board manual, which is really just policy, to make, I believe, half a dozen corrections, and those were made. We outlined those corrections. So unless we have any additional comments or requests, then I would recommend approval.
Do you have any more you'd like to say, Robert?
No, I think General Manager, Madam President, members of the board did capture the essence of what took place on your meeting last month on the 17th. We incorporated the changes our staff did with the General Counsel's approval and review, and we've incorporated those into the document and in ordinance format. So it's ready for your approval, consideration for approval this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Point 8, under the role and responsibility of the president, item number 8 says the president acts as a signatory on all documents.
What page, I'm sorry?
This will be page 10.
No, it's on page 6.
Oops. Version I have is page 10.
Page 6, item 8, under
It's
president.
section 502.
501. Or is
This
it-
says vice president. Oh, yeah, 501 is president, yeah, okay.
This is for the president, 501 president.
Yeah.
President acts as a signatory on all documents requiring execution by the board. Frequently, we've had documents submitted that require all our signatures, or not require, but have all our signatures on there. Is that no longer going to be the case, or is it only going to be the president from now on?
A lot of times, yeah, to certain things we like to have the whole board sign. It can be
This
so-
typically refers to legally binding documents, contracts, those types of things. Resolutions, ordinances, which you will affix all of your signatures to, is outside of the board handbook.
Wondering if that, there shouldn't be an extra sentence there so indicating that. It's kind of a minor deal, but, and then there, item 13 on the same page, the president personally addresses issues which may rise between and among members of the board. Individual directors or the general manager may inform the president of any issue of concern brought to their attention related to the performance of any other. That doesn't, when I first read that, I was concerned that would discourage board members coming directly to the general manager.
I think we talked about this at the other day.
So I just want to make sure that that doesn't preclude, because Arden's always had our general manager always had an open door policy. We can come in and talk about anything on there, and I want to make sure that
This does not exclude that at
Okay,
all.
all right.
So back on item 8, I think this covers, and I'll just turn to Mr. Pigley, this covers legal items where the president of the board is required to sign, but,
That's correct.
yeah.
And that's, I believe that's the way it's always been, is the board
Right.
president to sign.
On those, but once in a while we'll do a resolution or something.
But
where we
that's-
want-
Yeah, because this
For
doesn't say.
somebody or something, and we all want all.
Because this doesn't
It's
say,
ceremonial.
it says on all documents requiring execution of the board. That would mean resolutions, that would mean special proclamations and things of that nature as well. And I just want to get a clarification of whether or not we're going to continue having the board sign those documents.
So, I believe that you only have your board president sign resolutions and ordinances. The only exception would be if it was a proclamation or
Okay.
something that was more ceremonial, recognizing somebody.
All right, then I'll,
But I don't see it as an issue. I
Okay.
don't think it's a problem.
It's a good point, though.
Yep.
right.
Are you okay on 13 then, too?
Uh,
I thought about that one too before the last meeting, and we did talk about it a little bit. Then I read it again, and it just says the general manager may inform the president. It doesn't say that anything.
Yeah,
else.
okay.
I read it a second. Okay, any
Yeah.
other, do we else have any other questions?
No.
Thanks, Robert.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so this one, I will,
We're acting on it
yes,
today.
that's what I'm looking at. I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-02, adoption of the board handbook.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 4-1 and 1 accusal. Okay, item number 9, mid-year budget review and proposed FY fiscal year 2019-2020 supplemental budget request. I guess I'll turn it over to you, Matt, this time.
Good afternoon, Madam President and members of the board. The mid-year budget review process that staff undertakes each year has resulted in the requests that are listed on, should be the second or third page of your packet. The sheet titled Mid-Year Budget Revisions 2019-20. We'll start there and I'll explain a few things about that. By the way, please disregard the numbers in the bottom right of that page. Those were erroneously left in there and are irrelevant. So only to,
Right page.
it's
Oh, the back side of that page. Oh, I was looking at the other side.
Oh,
Okay. Got
okay.
it. I was
All right.
looking at the number.
Me too, I'm looking at
The
those.
number on the bottom. What number on the bottom? Okay.
So the
thank you.
minus 16,000 is, just scratch it up?
Okay, got it.
Yes, correct. Okay? So in the staff report, it references a $400,000 increase to the total operating budget. And in looking back at the staff report, it's a little bit confusing, but I'll walk you through it and hopefully it'll make sense. The $400,000 is first made up of two additional operating budget line item increase requests, one for legal expense and one for consulting services, $250,000 and $120,000 respectively, totaling the $370,000, the first number in the right-hand column.
Can you tell us exactly what those are for?
Exactly?
Exactly
I cannot.
who the consultant is, exactly what they're going to do for us, and exactly why we need them slightly.
I cannot, no. This is, if the general manager would like to add any detail, it is my understanding that it is related to the Sigma goings-on.
Which is
or
closed session. But it will be audited.
Well, how can it be out here if it's not
Well,
been
So
discussed
let
in
me,
closed
let me,
session?
let me respond.
It is in the
So
budget.
on the
I've been in
legal,
closed session, I've never heard anything about a budget increase.
yeah, it hasn't come up until now, but the task is trying to anticipate what's going to happen for the remainder of the fiscal year. And so I was asked to try to estimate what the fees might be through the end of the year, and it depends. We've worked out, we've had discussions with and been working on a settlement of the DWA litigation. And if that settlement goes through, then the fees won't be that significant. But if the settlement doesn't, if it somehow falls apart and we end up back in court, it's hard to project or correctly, with any scientific approach, what the expenses are going to be. And so what we tried to do was come up with a number that was high, so that you wouldn't have to come back here and do a budget adjustment again between now and the end of the fiscal year. But it's very difficult to anticipate, what's going to happen, and then if one of the two
If we're
scenarios
hiring
happens.
a consultant, though, we would know what the reason for that is. And that seems to me a personnel decision that should be published. It's a policy issue.
To help us with the
So
with
we
the
are-
finances.
I'd hate to see us out secretly hiring people and not letting the public know what we're doing.
No,
because
this was all
we're-
done in
We're
public
supposed to be
session.
doing exactly the opposite of that.
No, this was all done in public session. We have used Hunt Thornton, and basically they are doing much of the financial analysis with regard to the split, which is what my reference is in the settlement. So we don't know for sure if we'll even need this money, and hopefully if we all come to an agreement here soon, we won't have to use this, but we do want the money budgeted in case we do need to
Has
do
our
the
legal
analysis.
counsel since picked up negotiating on our behalf, or are we still negotiating this through our board of members?
It's been the president and vice president of the two boards that have been meeting. And
Without legal
so that
counsel
hasn't-
present?
Without legal counsel present.
By their request.
Yeah, so that's the way it's been done. And
So Randy Duncan is deciding the future of this district without the input of the 5 members of the board?
No,
No, not at all.
no,
That's not
the
true.
board gave us direction in the last closed session, and
How did it
we...
happen? Because I could count to 3 if there's 3 smart people.
So let me respond. So the board gave us direction. Based on that direction, we had our representatives on the board, president, vice president, had a discussion with the president, vice president of DWA. We are now going to be following up and having a follow-up meeting on that proposal that was made based on the direction of this board in closed session.
It seems to me that we're at the point that this should be picked up by council. Having a casual conversation is one thing, but to have inexperienced board members negotiating intricate legal details about a settlement is completely outer space kind of management for even a district like this. And certainly, the lead negotiator on the other side is a, you know, FBI agent. He's going to win.
Nothing will get approved without this board's
The
approval.
board needs to approve it.
Well, I hear two votes now saying that there's a question about whether or not, because as far as I can recall, we never really took a vote on whether or not the board should be negotiating on behalf of the district. That just happened. Mr. Duncan just invented that and got acquiescence from another board member, and they went ahead with it. So as far as I can recall, no one ever voted on that, and I have a real problem with it. So that's something you guys should...
So we received direction from the board in closed session. We have followed that direction to a T, and the next stage is there are going to be some more meetings between the two sides, and we're following the agreed upon approach to having those discussions with the necessary assistance of a consulting team that is working on the financial and other related analysis in furtherance of the settlement.
That was all clear. We cannot.
I want to be
forward.
careful what we say in
Yes.
open session, and I think that's as much as that we can really say in
What
open session.
this firm will do is to analyze the financial situation.
I don't remember there being a vote. I remember there being discussions, but I think there should be a vote. I think it should be a public vote on who's negotiating on behalf of this district. That is a personnel matter, that's a policy matter, and it needs to be done out front. And it shouldn't be just a... People need to be on the record on that.
Well, the issue right now is...
Because it's going to be a big issue going forward over the next few months.
So I think that is an issue that you can raise at a later date, and certainly you're going to have an opportunity. We don't even know, well, we're going to come back to you in closed session, and at that time, when the time is appropriate to go into closed session, when you have something to consider and vote on in closed session, you can address that. But the issue before you today is we were asked to try to anticipate what the expenses were going to be between now and the end of the fiscal year. And we did the best that we could, but we tried to come up with a worst case scenario so that you wouldn't have to come back in here and do another adjustment
My
between now.
recollection is that there was a hearing about now or next month, February. Anybody?
February
Oh.
17th.
February 18th.
All right, so we don't have anything on that. Good, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I think the 17th is a holiday. Yeah. I think it's the day of our board meeting, or study session.
I think so, yes.
Maybe it's not the holiday, it's our study session. Anyway, okay, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so that outlines the first two operating budget line items. And so remember from our past budget workshops, we have operating line items, kind of the things we cut checks for. Then we have salaries and benefits, and then we have capital items. Those are kind of the three big pieces to our annual budget. So the first two that I mentioned are the operating line items that will cut checks to these attorneys or consultants if need be. The second change is total increases related to changes in the classification plan. The classification plan is on the next page. The changes to this plan did not increase total FTEs. We remain at 49. What it did, the changes that are in this one are the removal of the administrative and government affairs specialist. That position was eliminated. And then the third position from the top, assistant general manager, was created. And obviously those are different paying positions, and the net total difference between those two is the $94,823 listed as the next item down on the change summary. Does everybody follow that with me so far? Okay, good. So the other piece of the way we allocate our costs is all of the costs in the general fund each year get allocated based on labor hours, or a portion of those costs get allocated based on labor hours to our capital jobs. So in other words, if I spend time on a capital job, my hour or whatever time I spend on it goes toward the cost of that capital job rather than salaries and benefits in the operating budget. So of the total $464,000 increase to the operating budget, $64,000 of those costs are going to be allocated to capital jobs. Thus, the net of $400,203 is the net increase to the operating budget, or bottom line as we commonly refer to it in our annual budget.
And that's the 2.6% of the budget, is that what that means?
Correct. Correct.
So that's a 2.6% increase.
Yes, correct. Okay? And those, if you'd like to see in detail, and the sheet that you're kind of used to going over in the annual budget process, the sheet that's the landscape version that has three different groups of number on it. One is the original budget, one is the proposed mid-year budget, and the third one is the difference between the two. And about halfway down, you'll see that $400,000 figure, which is the difference between the two.
What is the, you're talking about adding a position that hasn't yet existed. What is the salary range for that position?
Just for disclosure, I will hand this out. It was intended to be as part of the packet, but it did not make it in the packet, but I'll hand this out to you. We can discuss that.
Yeah, we took eliminated one position and then created the assistant general.
And that was at the direction,
At
more
the
or less, of
direction
the board,
of the board,
and
yes.
it's your evaluation.
Yes, that was part of the condition.
Okay?
So I didn't participate in the evaluation because I was new here. So during that evaluation, the board approved a new position?
Instructed me to find an assistant general manager. Yes. Put one in place, and we had the opportunity to. So I didn't add a position. I just changed the position that we already had because I could basically get much of the work.
I see a whole lot of numbers on the page. I asked for a.
It's the top.
The top.
Assistant general manager.
Yeah, if you notice in...
172,000, 220,000 between the two?
Should be.
Yes, range 30 is the range that the new position is in.
And that salary thing is done by compensation, class comp.
And how many positions do we have in the agency that pay more than that?
Pay more than that?
Yeah.
More than that 30
How many
range?
people make more than
Nobody really.
210,000, 220?
Nobody.
It looks
Well,
like
we have
it.
one.
No.
The general
nobody.
manager makes more than 220,000.
No,
No.
not on that sheet, I think.
Not on salary. This is salary.
What?
This is salary only.
Yeah, well, he's over 300 with benefits.
No,
so
that's
No,
not
this is,
right.
but this
It's not,
particular.
with benefits maybe.
I'm just saying that we're talking salary right
No,
now.
I'm not even sure that's
And
accurate.
are we actually going to try to pretend that he's not making over 200 grand a year?
I am.
Well, you
Nobody
just
said
said
he
it
wasn't,
wasn't
I said
220,
this
so.
is the
It
salary.
wasn't 220, it's about
This graph is salary
215.
only. That's all.
I think I made 215.
I didn't mean to pick on you on that subject, but it seems to me there's a whole lot of people making over 200,000 a year.
Well, yes, and for the record, I'm the lowest paid, I'm pretty sure I'm the lowest
I
paid.
did not tell you that. I didn't mean to really drag you in on that part, but it just happened because how many people make over 220 in a building? And I think the answer is there's more than one. I mean, I read what's being reported is several.
If you include benefits, of course. But I thought I heard the question was salary, but maybe I misheard that. I apologize. Okay. So again, the net increase to the operating budget is $400,203, 2.6% of that budget. And then the bottom half of that same budget revision summary page are the 4 items that are being requested as capital jobs that have come up since July 1 passing the original budget that staff is recommending that we add to the capital budget. If you'd like to know any details about any of those, we can, staff can answer any questions, but obviously there's 4 items there. Construction meters are water meters that are temporarily put at construction sites. This is basically a replacement program for our existing construction meters. They're normally put on fire hydrants while projects are being built. The effluent filtration, there is discussion of putting additional filtration on the effluent at the Horton plant. This is a preliminary design review to explore that possibility. The regional urban water management plan, I think that's an obvious one, but if it's not, let me know. And the San Gorgonio Pass groundwater sustainability plan, obviously that's a result of us being a part of that groundwater sustainability agency, and that is our district share of that plan. And I will answer any questions that anybody has.
Questions, anybody?
Yeah. Other than pass through to contractors for, jobs or whatever, where's this money going to come from?
Our operating revenue. Yeah. If you'll notice on the page that's landscape, it has 3 different groups of numbers. The one on the far left is the proposed mid-year adjustment. And if you look about halfway down the page, you see net operating income and then loss in parentheses.
Right.
That positive 72,020 number is our net operating income from operations. So that's still a positive number, even with the $400,000 increase. So our revenues are more than covering our expenses for this fiscal budget.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, good
Hopefully it'll
question,
be
Randy.
4 times that when, at the end of the year, if we get things
It just
resolved.
seems like things pop up.
They do.
Anybody else have any questions for Matt? Thank you, Matt.
By the way, I saw the changes on the report. Whoever did that.
What report?
On the check register.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Yeah, the one that's in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the check register. Okay, so are you next to? You're still standing there.
I am.
Okay, so are you number 10 too? Okay, ordinance number 2020-1, amending ordinance 93-3, and the policy to avoid disconnection of domestic service for non-payment. Is that right? Is that what we're on?
That's
Okay,
correct.
this one here, wasn't this stuff that we had to add to this? Wasn't there
Well,
there was a
You will explain
legislation
that
on
in a
this.
second. This is mandatory.
Yeah, this is mandatory.
So when I breeze through that, I think this is the subject. It goes from 7 days to 60 days.
Yeah.
And we've been telling people that when they said 7 days, that it was never 7 days, and apparently it is. Is that right?
I'm not sure which 7 days you're referring to, but I can
So
walk us
I'll
through
notice-
the changes and
Yeah,
maybe answer your question.
It seems substantial to go from 7 days of anything to 60 days.
Yeah, we did
And I
check.
remember that being part of a complaint from somebody that was here a few months ago. She was shut off in just a couple of days. And she was told
No, that's
publicly that no, that could never happen.
That's not accurate. We in fact, I think we,
Well, okay.
right now,
Well, we're changing
shut
it,
people
officially
off.
changing it from 7 days to 60 days, so.
Yeah, everybody has.
No, we're not.
Well, why are we telling people we're not doing it when apparently
We're doing it today.
Well,
We weren't doing it before vote.
the
Or
basis-
tomorrow, I'm sorry, on Tuesday we'll be voting on this, but it wasn't in place until we vote on it.
Okay, so I'll walk you through what we're looking at here. Going to aqua conferences or CSDA, you might have heard of SB 998. It is California's most recent attempt to make it easier for lower income people to deal with their expenses. In short, the district was in compliance with the vast majority of all of SB 998's requirements, but we have gone through our policy, our water rules and regs, which is the ordinance 9303 that the president alluded to earlier. And this will become effective February 1st of this year per the SB 998 law. 6 large components of SB 998. We have to have a policy that has to include certain elements as designated by SB 998. It also has to be in 6 different languages and available to our customers on our website. We are in the process of getting our new policy, which is included in the packet, translated into these 6 different languages. We already had our shut-off notice translated into 6 different languages from a prior law that passed about 5 years ago, but this requires that this policy be in those same languages. The statute also requires that an account be at least 60 days delinquent before we can discontinue service for that account. We are extending our delinquent period by about 13 days, and the reason I say about is because billing periods constantly change based on when the 1st or the 15th of the month falls in regards to weekends and or holidays. So it could be as much as 4 days one way or the other when we're talking about delinquency periods. The next requirement is that a door hanger be hung at the residence prior to 48 hours prior to any shut-off activity. That one we happen to already have been doing, and thus the 6 languages that we were required to put on that. We've always done that. A lot of districts did not do that. It is not required by law until now.
We haven't done it in 6 languages, though, have we?
Well, since that law passed, we have for the past 5 years or so.
Do you have in here a picture of what we're going to be putting on the door?
I do not.
How do you get 6 languages on a card?
Wondering
I've had a
if
lot of
they
those
do.
delivered to me. I just
It's a door hanger that had to be about that big, rather than the typical, postcard type or postcard size door hanger. It is fairly large and it's bright pink, but we did fit it all on there.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
So the door hanger, and then the next requirement is payment plans be offered to customers that request them. Again, we already did that. A maximum shut-off fee is mentioned in the statute of $50. We cannot charge any more than $50, so you charge the lesser of $50 or your nexus that makes up your fee, whichever is smaller.
What is ours now?
Our current fee is $50. So again, no change necessary there for us. And the last requirement is that the annual reporting of these disconnections that happen, we are now required to report to the State Water Resources Control Board. Prior to this legislation, we were not required to report any of that information to the state.
Go over that one more time. Any disconnections that we do here, we have to report to Sacramento?
Correct.
I think the governor's real interested in disadvantaged people and low income, and I think they are looking at trying to help subsidize their rates. The state helps subsidize pay their water bill, and they want to know which people to help. I think
How is that done? Just an entry in the computer that does that?
We actually haven't been notified of how that's going to be done yet. My guess is it'll be a website you log into at some point. That's the way most of our other state reporting is, but we have not been notified of that yet. Okay. So real quick in review, the end of reporting, a slight extension to our delinquency period, and then the actual policy being available to our customers, as well as in 6 different languages, are the 3 main changes that we had to make. All of those have been incorporated in the resolution revision that is in front of you in your packet. And like I said, not a lot of major changes, but we have made the changes that will put us in compliance with SB 998.
when I was reading a version that was online, I guess that's the actual booklet, there was another item in there that I didn't hear you mention here, and it had to do with people when they're applying for service, they have to give us a copy of their lease.
That's current requirement. Is
There
that?
there was some strike-throughs that I read it.
What I remember about that part, I liked it, is the fact that people, if they come into connect to service, before they had to bring in either the owner's signature on something or Francie or something. Now they can have the water, the renter can have the water turned on themselves right then, only they have so many days to get the paperwork to them. Is that correct?
That is current operating procedure,
But wasn't
yes.
that in?
But that's not part of this revision that's going on in this.
I thought I read it in here. Okay.
So that booklet that's uploaded online, I think it's in relation to this, but maybe it's something else.
I'm not sure.
It
If
was
you could
just
email
like
me
an
the
errant
caption.
file on my Dropbox that was a
I think
copy
he's
of the
referring
code
to the
strike.
current water regulations and service ordinances, so it would it be a current item addressed in this booklet? This is what's uploaded on Dropbox.
It should not be part of any strike-through or revision related to this.
There was blueprint and red print and some strike-through, and I just thought, oh, that's interesting. I don't talk to a lot of people, but it sounded like at first it might be aligned with the plan that I've heard of, that there's a movement out there to squinch down on the people that can be electors within a water district, that they must be have a water bill in their name. One of our employees actually spoke about it at another district board meeting, or doesn't work here anymore, but that was the first time I heard about it. And then he went on to say that you wouldn't be able to run it unless you had a water bill in your name, and that would strike out about over 90% of our population.
I haven't heard that one yet. I don't think it would be fair, but anyways.
I don't know why a paid employee would go to another water district and promote that as a policy. I was just, my mouth was...
Matt, I'll look for where I saw that written at.
Yeah, if you-
Look too, and we'll come back on Tuesday and
Yeah, if you would email it to me directly,
I know, I read that.
I will.
Because I was thinking of Carl Baker when I was reading it, because that was always his contention.
Okay.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
How does this apply to people that don't have a service, like squatters that move in, turn on water, and just start living?
That's almost a separate legal issue that we have to
Is that
deal
not
with.
part of this bill?
No,
That wasn't addressed?
this is for bill-paying customers that if they need assistance or payment plan or stuff mentioned in here, but squatting and all, that's almost another separate legal.
Okay, I didn't know if that was addressed in this or not.
This would only refer to legally
Legal accounts.
legal accounts.
Correct.
I've read so many reports you guys have given us. It could have been in one of the handbooks I read too.
They're legally
I don't
hooked
know.
up, and this applies. If they're illegally hooked up, then another set of laws apply.
Okay, and that concludes my presentation. I'll happily answer any questions I can.
Anybody more questions?
Maybe don't.
So this has nothing to do with that, whatever it was I was
I
reading.
don't know. I guess not.
I'm okay with it if it does, but I just want to know, because I'm going to go home and try to find it again and read it.
Yeah, if you would, please
Yeah,
email
bring
it to
it back
me
Tuesday.
and we'll resolve this on
Can I
Tuesday.
tag you with it? I don't know if it works like Facebook.
We'll just bring it back Tuesday. We'll talk about it. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, Federal Advocacy Services, which was Laurel, who we all met in January. I'll recommend the authorization of General Manager execute agreement for services for Harvey and Clay Government Relations in the amount of $4,000 a month for the term February 1, 2020 to January 31st, 2021.
And again, Laura was here and gave you a report. At that time, you got the opportunity to ask her some questions. In general, I think the relevant issue here is that the contract price hasn't changed. And it hasn't changed for quite some time. Oh, did you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead. No,
Brian, do it. Go ahead.
she actually read the description that I was going to read,
All right,
so
go ahead,
the only thing
Brian.
I can add is,
My job, right?
due to these types of efforts, we've been able to secure over $7 million in federal grant, which we were then able to leverage for almost $14 million in state grants. So you can see that the $50,000 we spend per year does pay off significantly when we start talking about federal grants and how we leverage those with state grants. Laura also has helped us set up some local meetings here and with the Corps to make sure we're part of the local work plan, and then again, when it goes to Washington, D.C. to be part of the federal work plan as well. So.
She is worth gold when we go to DC.
Yeah.
The people she gets us in to meet, the appointments she arranges, her input,
Yes.
she's well worth the money.
And she's working on that again for your upcoming trip in February.
Good.
And yes, I will have the brochure ready, Victoria, early.
Yes.
We were actually
That
working
will
on that
be-
today.
that's been discussed with me by the board members. I think the other thing, there's a number of different things, but the only thing I'm going to add is if somebody would have told me that it would be almost impossible to get a meeting with an elected or political type in Washington, D.C. without, lobbyists or whatever, I would have said nonsense, but that is indeed the case.
And and the money that we've gotten through Washington, just the 35 million alone in the WRDA money, I mean, not including, another maybe 20 million, I think, and other SRF money, SRF.
Well, it's even more important that we keep to it, and building on what Brian has said, is that we now are past the planning stages and other forms of revenue, and now we've gone into construction. So this is going to start eating away at the $35 million authorization, which, incidentally, another story, along with what Brian is saying, is that we were going to lose that $35 million authorization. If we hadn't have been there, we would have probably lost that $35 million. That year, we were the ones that had spearheaded the reconciliation that changed that law.
Through Laura and Thane at the time. Laura was there. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to appointments to board standing committee, which I haven't even thought about yet, so if anybody has any requests, let me know. We'll do that on Monday, or Tuesday. Affiliation listing the same. They are in the packet, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, number 14, Mission Springs Water District West Valley Water Reclamation Facility update. General Manager.
Well,
Madam President, I'm going to have Steve, since he's here,
yes.
address that today.
Mr. Ledbetter has some news for us.
Good afternoon again. I do have a quick update for you. The last we met, or last I was up here presenting an update, I think again back in November, we mentioned that we had received the 90% design and we were going through the internal comment process. I'm happy to report that we've completed all plan checks on that 90%, and we're getting ready to set a meeting internally to go through that and identify the critical areas and make sure no one's comments within staff and sub-consultants are conflicting before that goes back to the actual design consultant for the treatment plant. Again, that will be completed in the next couple weeks, and that will get back to the consultant, AECOM, the wastewater treatment plant consultant, and they will proceed with the 100% plan set. I do want to give a quick update on the wastewater discharge reporting permit. Up until this point, or let me rephrase that, we submitted our application to the Regional Water Quality Control Board back on July 27th, and we were promised a 6-week turnaround by staff on that permit, and to date we have not received those comments back, or excuse me, a draft report of waste discharge. We were really trying to time that up with our 90% design review to ensure that there were no requirements or potential requirements from the regional board that we may need to tweak our design and accommodate it, basically put it on a parallel path with design. We've been in close contact with the regional board, but we still have not received that. So we're going to be working, staff and I are going to be working with the general manager to set a meeting with the regional board to identify what's causing the delay and get some clarity on what that timeline looks like going forward, so we know if we need to adjust the timeline for the treatment plant. Up until now, it has not caused a delay for the project, but we're at that critical point to where any further delays will delay the construction start date for this project.
I think they've had some staff changes that
Yeah, she was, yeah.
confuse them
And
internally.
not only staying, but, she needs 3 more people, anyway.
Yeah, I know there's been
Yeah.
changes from the top, down to the bottom. So again, we as a district, we're keeping that working relationship with the regional board. But we do kind of want to sit down and just identify what that path looks like going forward. So again, if we have to adjust the timeline, we can keep the board informed of that as well.
I think having that meeting is the best.
I don't have anything new information to report on our SRF application with the State Water Resource Control Board. We're keeping in close contact with our representative at the state board, and I have no new information there. And with that, that's all. Any questions?
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
The I-10 Indian Sewer Collection System Financing District.
Just briefly.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We gave an update on this at our last board meeting. We talked about giving you a potential schedule. What we're looking at doing at this point is starting the process similar to what we did with AB 18, which is start with a brochure in March, and then with a vote sometime in October. If it's successful with that vote, then it would hit the tax rolls in 2021. Right now, we're securing the engineer assessment staff. We're basically reaching out to Albert Webb, who we used prior to this, 2 years ago, to help us with the parcel information as well, as far as the numbers, the owners, and things of that nature. Make sure we have the accurate names and things of that. And also, before we send out any brochures, we're going to meet with some of the large property owners that were most vocal in this last process, which was unsuccessful, to sort of start working with them and making sure that we've got their support before moving forward.
We didn't really go out to a vote yet. We did some surveys, which they've shared with you probably 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Yeah. And, we just want to be sure that we have that. I mean, essentially what we've done is, for everyone, is, if you remember, we have a substantial amount of money that we have. We did the preliminary design. We've done work in getting the assessment district set up, except for when we go out and do the surveys, we find that our price point is considerably higher than they want. So these are business people, though, so you don't know where they're gonna fall. But as we reduce that considerably by moving forward with the regional sewer plant, so by doing that, we've been able to reduce the price of this per acre, and now it's attractive. Plus, you see the economy kind of improving out there. So we're hoping that we can put all that together and make this a successful assessment district attempt.
Right, and we get all the money we spent back out of the assessment district. that
We can get, yeah, most of it.
Most of it. Some of it was like
Are there any numbers floating around yet?
10, 15 years ago.
Numbers as
As far as the assessment,
Well, on the plant, wastewater, wastewater treatment
plant.
Total cost of it?
The plant itself, Steve?
Well, I don't know. We're still getting close to
The current estimate
$30
is $28 million for the treatment plant.
Oh, for the plant, but we also, that particular project will also include a connection system from our existing
Okay, and
infrastructure.
that would be something that we would include in our financing agreement, or bond,
That's why we are visiting.
Bonding, so.
Well, that's
goes
one of the
from
reasons.
28 million to 58 million?
No. The plan itself is that. I don't know if you want to comment, Danny, but what?
It's always on the previous item. I'm happy. Is the question how much the
Oh,
actual plant is
yeah.
estimated to be? Yes.
Well, yeah, and then, you see, every time, twice we talked about this, so.
Well, I can go back to the previous item. It doesn't really belong on the I-10 Indian sewer system, but it belongs in the regional plan update. But
Yes.
is the question on the table, is it?
Well, he mentioned 23, did you say?
It's 28. So
28
initially,
million, and
if I can actually help you, hopefully, When we first brought first off, Madam President, members of the board, apologize. Good afternoon. The first time that we brought this as a required CIP or a CIP project was almost $21 million. What had happened is the actual plant itself has grown about 50% in capacity, and it actually has changed a little bit of some process, and it went up to $28 million. So the current budget today in our capital budget, that's part of what was mid-year that Matt was working on today, is a $28 million plant. There are other components of that has been talked about in the regional program, which is roughly a $9 million Area M2 project, Area M2 sewer conversion project, and there's also roughly a $4 million, it's in climbing right now, we're running through some design challenges, conveyance line, and that's going to be taking the flow scalping some flow from a lift station and bringing that as seed flow to the new plant. So what has been discussed many times in this boardroom is a regional program, and that's part of the application process, the SRF application process being submitted by Steve, or on our behalf. That's what he was referring to when he said he had no further update on. So I can give a little bit more comprehensive detail on Monday if you want to see something in writing.
You're hitting on the answer there. So we got 28 million, 9 million, and 4 million for extras like pipelines going.
Not necessarily extras, but all required elements of the project.
And we do have some of it. You know, one of the reasons that part of it that we were looking at, and it does get complicated, is that we had to serve as a severely disadvantaged community, and we did get that assessment district through, but, and you can go ahead and
I was waiting for you.
But what happens is in order to qualify for the Small Communities Grant Program, which is about an $8 million grant, we had to have all of these components in place, and we do. We don't know that we're going to get that grant yet, but that is what he's talking about when he says the SRF. We can also look at a very low interest loan, which is tantamount to getting a grant too.
If I can add to that, the grant program opportunity, there's a couple of different criteria that it goes from its initial grant opportunity. It increases if you have a DAC community septic to sewer type project, and also has other elements of that. So what the district has done is created this regional program. The Area M2 isn't, that septic to sewer project isn't necessarily critical to the plant itself, but it was an opportunity to also be eligible for additional grant money, so we would also obviously take that opportunity. The two critical components of that project, of course, the plant itself, which is the $28 million, and the current budget of $4 million for the conveyance line. I will be honest, there are...
That's the line that goes from our current plant to this plant?
Not the plant itself, but the lift station. It's the seed flow that's necessary.
Yes, you're correct.
But that's what makes it work between the two of them?
Yes, sir.
And that's $4 million. The other number you threw out there was 6 or 9, I can't remember.
$9 million for Area M2. That was the septic to sewer project. That's what the general manager was talking about.
And is that part of the assessment district that's coming from? Or
correct. So what you have is you have
a different.
So that won't have. We don't have to borrow. Or we do. We have to. We bond.
So assessment district 15 is Area M2 essentially.
That's
Area
a different
M2
assessment district than just passed.
Yeah, Area M2 is what we refer to our Dos Palmas. It's our county area of Desert Hot Springs. It's south of the plant. That area has a passing assessment district, as I mentioned, 8015, and any grant monies used to build sewers would be match funded with the assessment district funds. So that's why the district is, when the grant, I always watch this up, it says, what's the name of the grant, I'm sorry?
It's a small community wastewater grant.
Thank you. Small Communities Wastewater Grant. It has eligibility to bring grant funds to a disadvantaged community septic to sewer, and that's why we threw that project in there. It is an opportunity to build that area. It's had to be thrown into the CEQA process, so because it was part of the actual funding for SRF. So that's how it became part of the regional program.
And this is all coming together?
This is coming together. There is, as Steve Ledbetter spoke earlier, there were some timing setbacks that so far haven't been too critical, but can be, and that is our waste discharge requirement permits. So, because it potentially can have some impacts that the regional board would like to see, that will have design changes. Design changes would have potentially delays in the actual design process, and incur additional costs. So
That's why we're anxious to get the design, or to get the standards.
that's why
Yeah,
they're parallel. They're
I
parallel
heard
paths.
a number like 90%, is that?
Yes,
the
we're at
design.
90%. We are consolidating our 90% comments. It's a very critical point. As Steve had mentioned earlier,
What would get in the way, from where we're sitting here today, what would get in the way of an operational plan at some date not too far off? I don't know how far
If I
that is.
understand-
Is that 3 years to operation? Is that what, 5 or?
Oh, no, definitely. We're looking at less than 2. So if I understand the context is what would get in the way, or what would delay the projects in order for us to start construction?
It sounds like we're doing this and it'll be ready to go in a year, 2 years and 3 months maybe.
This, for the sake of conversation, yes. So the project is moving forward, and what we're hopeful, or what we're looking forward to is 100% design, so that we can actually go out and bid the project and start the construction of the project and, yes, be in operation.
And so in the manager report, I'm reading terms about, we're out talking to people about bonding, and this is part of that, is that right? Well,
Hearing
he's got a
on this
line.
location, I'm having a hard time. What was?
There, in the manager's report, I just, it's been in there for a couple of months now, I guess, or longer.
But what was
bonding?
It talks about, staff is talking with, I guess, finance people about gathering up the funds for this project.
Partial, we're only going
Is
to.
this part of that discussion? 'Cause I don't know. If
Before I respond, I'm sorry, I'm still not catching on to
Let me see if I can
what
find
part
it.
of it. We are talking to a lot of different funding sources for different projects, and before I
District
say
staff
yes, I want to make sure it's
currently
happening.
having conversations with financial advisors as to the best financing approach for major capital projects coming up. So when I read that, I'm thinking new building, new sewer treatment plant, I don't know
Yes.
what else.
True, that's actually in your report, and what it is that, as, I don't want to botch this up for a finance person, but yes, we're looking at the different methods, or the best way for us to finance the cost of our capital project.
Unfortunately, I was in the back of a police car last time when you talked about the building situation. That, it doesn't sound like we made any progress on that, but we're moving pretty quickly on this.
We have to.
Right, I'm not being
No,
critical of it.
and we have to,
But on
because the Horton plan is almost capacity.
Right. So on the building aspect of this, and I think there's a third one in there, I can't remember what it is right now, but I don't know if the board has come to a decision on whether, on the scope of a new building.
No.
That's a discussion I think we need to have sooner than later, before we start making deals for money, because if we're gonna do it all at one time, you're gonna need more help, I guess.
I'm not sure what to say. I know it's not related to the
Well,
item that we're discussing at the moment, but I know there's something.
I'm mixing
that-
them together now.
And
You know.
with all due respect, Director Groucho, there is an item in our manager's update, our report that talks about the
Yeah, I
building,
read that.
and we are going to be able to bring some additional information. I'll be happy to talk about that.
Well, that's essentially, has specifically to do with the work that we need to do on this particular building right now, but we will also probably bring all of this together. And Matt, what you're talking about there is what we would look at in bringing all of these projects together and see if there's some financing options that will be more efficient and better options for us to consider.
Okay.
My question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Over the past couple of years, as this has come up, we've had some large landowners that were opposed to this, and they were either in escrow or talking to favorable buyers. Has any of those transactions happened? Do we know?
That's back on
Now you're
the
back
next
to
subject.
Steve, or now you're back to
Okay,
Brian.
Going backwards.
On the actual.
Well,
No, this
do you want I can speak
this
on
is
something?
the item we're on.
So,
Kenny,
I'm not sure Brian's going to know that.
yeah, I could help Brian out on that.
Yeah.
So, John Soulier has spoken many times about this project, and it's gained traction, it's lost traction. And the I-10 Indian, as the preliminary design report indicates that General Manager Walton spoke about, is this area north and south of the I-10 on Indian Avenue. And what has the latest survey or the latest information that's gone out to the public has taken those areas that have shown, like say south of the 10, that have shown more interest than anything else. We've broken into 3 areas, area 1, 2, and 3, and they would actually be voted on separately, and they could actually be standalone areas. So that's what we've done. So I can't tell you where those larger parcels are, but I do know that the largest parcels in those areas that are part of this area are all cannabis, and they're currently building. So I want to say that there's been a switch in those that want to participate because they're actually being conditioned to put sewer in. There's some legalities that I'm not certain I want to just actually speculate on, but I believe we have to deal with what the county has on record as a property owner. We can go and negotiate and talk with the current property owner that we know of, that's basically the developer, but I believe we have some constraints. And I'm going to leave it there, and I'm sure I can help Brian before the next meeting and provide some more additional information.
We've done 2 or 3 surveys down there now, and yes, there was I think there was 1 or 2 property exchanges that were going on down there, and the previous owner didn't want to do it, but the new owner would probably be favorable, and that might swing us. If you recall, the surveys give it kind of a 50-50 almost. So we want to have a little more comfortable lead on it than that, and I think as time goes on, that will happen. I think what else is going to help is that when they see the plant actually being built, there's going to be a lot more confidence in the property owners down there that that they will have a sewer plant to send this sewage to.
When we were approaching them before, we said something like, hey, we want to build a sewer plant. Now we're going to have one, and the pitch is a little different. Now that it looks like we're actually getting ready to go, that if you get in now, it's this price, and if you wait,
Does
that work that way?
Yeah, well, we'll look at something like that, yeah. But I mean, I think, right now they're going to, we're bound by the rules, and we can't charge any more than what it is for the cost. So, we essentially will work that all out with the connection fees.
Yeah, we'll have a lot more meetings on this.
Yeah, you'll have a lot more. Yeah, we'll get into detail about that. But right now, we really just need to keep surveying. Or I don't want to say survey, but we need to keep working with the property owners in the area to see if we can't get this thing to move along. But now, at least they're not going to have the collection system in prior to us having a sewer plant. It doesn't appear.
No, that doesn't appear. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, number 16, the consent agenda. Anybody have any comments or questions on that? Okay, number 17, financial report. Is that what we just had? No.
Good afternoon again.
No, I made the packet this time. Is it separate?
A brief financial summary for the 5 months ended November 30th, 2019. If I could play back a recording of last month's financial report, I would. It would accomplish the same thing. If you look at the top left of the usual landscape format page with the graphs at the bottom, the third column from the left is the favorable or unfavorable variance from budget to actual. All of those numbers in that column are favorable to budget. We always budget conservatively, and mostly because in the revenue section of seasonal factors, as we get into January and February, the rainy months, and consumption goes down, those trends will reverse. But on the expense side, we've been lucky so far. We always have to budget repair facilities and maintenance repair line items. So far this year we've been lucky, thus we only had 2 line items in the operating budget to request supplement for. So those trends that we've seen so far this year are continuing and definitely in the right direction, those numbers all being a positive variance. Cash position has gone down since July 1, but it is as expected because of large debt payments and construction projects that are starting to happen. So with that, I'll answer any questions, and Madam President, if it's your pleasure, I may have the answer to the question that was asked earlier about the water ordinance. And then one other piece of information that is financial related. If you've been here long term, you've heard us mention several times that at some point our PERS side fund is going to fall off, and that is happening next fiscal year. So just a reminder that that is...
You gotta keep your fingers crossed on that one.
Right.
Say that again. Can you say that again?
I know the board in general is always concerned about the unfunded liability and PERS-related financial information. So just a reminder, a little background for board members that weren't here when it happened. When the district joined PERS, the decision was made by the board at that time to give employees benefit back to their hire date. Okay. There was a large deferred comp account that was contributed to PERS and so on and so forth, but it also required additional contributions. Those additional contributions have been made up until this fiscal year, but this will be the last year that we have to make those contributions. Neighborhood of $380,000 per year. So quite a large pickup for operating budget. We're actually in discussions currently to possibly increase our annual normal contribution by that amount to lessen our unfunded liability. We're in discussions with the actuaries to see if that is a recommended action. So again, just a reminder, this is the last fiscal year, and next fiscal year, that contribution related to that side fund, and that's a PERS term, that's what they call those funds, to buy back to date of hire is the side fund, and that is going away.
And then what happens? What happens at that point? What do we see in the budget after that happens?
We'll see our normal contribution continue at the level it's at now, based on all of the factors that go into that contribution.
How much is that?
Off the top of my head, it's in the neighborhood of $600,000 a year. I'd have to look for exact numbers.
That's interesting. Oh, I see where there's an expenditure of about 28, I think, for CalPERS at some point a month. And I never did the math to figure out what all that was. The 600 number that you threw out, is that something in addition? Because when does that check get written?
No, actually the last couple of years, because PERS gives us the option to either pay it on a monthly basis or pay it up front. And by paying it up front, we save about $50,000 a year.
All right.
And so we've been making one large contribution at the beginning of the year rather than a payment plan. So you won't see a monthly amount to PERS for the normal contribution.
And so what after next year, are we looking at a large increase, or is it going to be the same as what we're paying now? Because when you say something's going to change, does that mean
Decreases.
Yeah. So our current contribution, total contribution that we make to PERS, is made up of our normal contribution and this side fund. The 600 is the normal contribution that we make on an annual basis, and this 300,000 is the side fund. So these combined on an annual basis are closer to 900,000. After this year, this side fund goes away. Our normal contribution continues at the $600,000 level from there going forward.
So when do we hear the scary news, like the county just heard, that basically can't stay in business? Is that coming? Is that they just got hit for $3.5 billion.
Unfunded liability?
Yes.
Talking about what that's
Is that so?
We're not anywhere near the same position with the counties.
Obviously.
The last time we did the calculation, we were in the neighborhood of 70% funded. there are arguments that you shouldn't be above 80% funded. So we're not, I believe the county, and don't quote me, but I want to say they're in the 30 or 40%
I
range.
think it's 60. Well, I read the article, I think it's 60 and they're supposed to be at 80.
But as far as I know, there is no bad news coming.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. And just real quick on the item earlier, if I can try to answer the question, I think I might have found the answer. My guess is in the Dropbox there was a red line version of the changes that have been made to this resolution. All of those changes are outlined at the bottom of the first page of the resolution. These changes here. The sections that I'm guessing you're referring to are sections 6.02, 0.01, 2, and 3. Because in my final versions, those sections don't exist, but that was from a revision of 2014-03 ordinance, past changes that took effect that were included in the red line that should not have been. So if you get to 6.02,
I had a comment on that.
01, 2, and 3, and that's the language you were remembering, that's the answer. If not, let me know and I will research it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to find where I read it, that other thing I was telling you about. Let you know where I read it at.
Thank you.
Okay. Public relations report.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. Okay, we can go to item number 18 in the agenda packet. I'll briefly go through some key highlights. And just really briefly touching upon our board workshop from Monday. We did review the strategic communications plan. And once all of our changes are made, I will make sure that you have a finalized version in your inboxes. Okay. So
How
just
many of those copies were made like that?
these ones, 20 of these were made.
I just didn't make sure if it wasn't a whole lot.
No, and then we handed out all 20 during the workshop, so
Okay.
it was a perfect
Okay,
number.
great. And then, so usually it's, like, you know.
And then Director Grasha, I did put your copy in your inbox for you.
Okay, thank you.
So past events, we touched on this very briefly at the December board meeting, but we did have the Desert Hot Springs High School come tour the Horton wastewater treatment plant December 10th. There's also a video on Facebook that just kind of highlights their visit, essentially. So, and then December 14th, we had the City of Desert Hot Springs Festival of Lights Parade, and as you see those, staff and board members in attendance, and some pictures of the float. It was a very windy day. The float did suffer some damage, but we powered through.
It was a very beautiful club.
The committee did a great job.
It was cold.
Some upcoming events, we have the annual Food Now Golf Charity Classic that's coming up. I did include deadlines here. Also, they correlate with the calendar that Dory sends out weekly. So the Food Now Charity Classic, if you golf and are interested in participating, please let me know by January 31st. Similarly, United Way of the Desert, their Round for Impact. If you would like to participate, once again, it's golf, or if you'd like to just attend the luncheon, they do have a separate registration for that. Let me know, and my deadline for that would be February 3rd. The next one, which is of key importance, which has a deadline of tomorrow, is the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, and that would be the annual Palm Springs Air Museum Gala. If you would like to attend, please let me know at your earliest convenience, and before 5 p.m. tomorrow. Also,
I thought we had pre-arranged reservations for that.
we do have a table. It's just a matter of if you would like to go, letting us know to make sure we have your name listed.
Yeah, because if the seats aren't taken, we're offered to other
yeah.
people, and, other employees.
And that goes for all of the events if you'd like to attend, like the Senior Inspiration Awards, the annual luncheon that the supervisor's office puts on. If you'd like to go, just let me know and we'll make sure to put you on the list. So that's it for upcoming events. We will be having another wastewater treatment plant tour March 4th. It's a Wednesday. It's for the Cabot Yerxa Elementary students. It's about 15 students, and it's their student council. So the vice principal reached out and said she wanted to bring out her students. So if you'd like to come out and join us, it's about an hour or so. Let me know. Touching on outreach, so included in the report you have 3 different reports also included. The first one would be Alpha Media, which is our social media management group. They help us do our Facebook. And so if you will turn, it's the next page over, the blue report here. You'll see kind of how we trended for the month of December. And it also shows the different posts that we did for that entire period of that month period, and how many people interacted and that sort of thing. So we did increase 51 new likes in the month of December, so our page is seeing a steady increase of likes or views. So compared to December of 2018 and December of 2019, we have greatly increased our likes during that period of month. Just for example, we had 1 new like. This last month we trended 50 new likes. So we do have a larger social media presence, as you will see, and we target posts, whether it's conservation tips, as I mentioned, letting them know about the high school tour that we had. We also had a couple videos in English and in Spanish that showed how to turn off your water in case of an emergency. So Don and Jesus from the customer service team helped us do that. They were our main instructors. So that's that report. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, or need any clarification. I'm happy to help. The next one is CV water counts. So I meet monthly with all of the different water agencies, and we just talk about different conservation initiatives, and that brings me to let you know we did reach the 5 million gallons saved milestone since the 2013 conservation numbers were set. So we are in the middle of planning a press event, and once all of that is finalized, I'll make sure to communicate that with the board in case you guys would like to attend, as the other water districts will also be communicating that with their board of directors as well. Lastly, you also have the digital advertising report for the month of December. Last month, our Google Ads targeted water waste reporting and the value of respect. Same thing for Facebook. We talked about water waste reporting, and it directed individuals to the website, to that form where you report it. Same thing, targeted respect, and we had a targeted campaign to increase page likes, and that one was the MSWD board of directors and team essentially wishing everybody a happy holidays. So we targeted that with the like feature. Also included in that report, you'll see some website traffic and analytics as well. So if there's any questions on what those numbers mean, I'm happy to answer them. And something new that we'll be doing moving forward is listing our water bottle donations for the month. So that's on the back page, just so you know which organizations we are contributing to and all that works.
I know we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow.
That was before.
I'm
Trying
sorry?
to follow pages.
There it goes.
Page 4 on the back, yeah. I'm open to any questions or clarifications if you have any.
No, good job. Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
I don't have any questions, I just have a comment. It's a long time coming getting a report like this. This is awesome. And we haven't had this in such detail and stuff, and it really is very helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're here.
Thank you.
Here. Okay, monthly report. Wow, 12,951 water connections.
Well, even though we're up in production, yeah, we got basically from our 2013 number, we, are still showing a considerable reduction in our usage. But I don't know why they used 2013 anyway. We'd already
Nobody did.
started.
Nobody likes that.
I noticed.
I've heard a lot of water
somebody
districts go,
towel.
I do that first thing.
Yeah, it was just a lazy way of doing it. Yeah, the flows, nothing really too.
December was a good one, 98, of course it rained a little bit. 98 gallons per day per capita. Okay, anybody else, anybody comments on that? Okay. Upcoming events and director's reports. Anybody like to do it today?
Monday, if I could, please, Tuesday.
You can do it Monday.
You can do it Monday.
Go on, Tuesday. Tuesday.
I know, I didn't think to do that. Okay.
I'm going to do it on Tuesday as well. However, I do have an upcoming event that I want to make the board aware of, and the staff and members and the member of public that's out there.
Play with his phone.
And that is the Cabot's Pueblo Museum Cultural Weekend, January 24th through the 26th, and they're going to have that'll be, January 24th through the 26th at Pueblo, Cabot's Pueblo Museum, an exhibition of Oaxaca artists there. It's always it's a great event, just to let you know.
I bought a couple Christmas presents that.
Yeah.
I guess before Christmas they had some local artists over there selling their wares.
It's a great place to shop.
Yeah.
I gotta keep my wife away from the jewelry.
Yeah.
I'll go on Tuesday.
Okay. How about you? Do you have anything?
I don't have any.
Okay. Okay, correspondence. What do we got here? Nothing.
I have litigation that I'd like to refer to legal counsel for defense.
We're not done with the board meeting.
That's under this.
I'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, district council comments. Just in time. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, just to report briefly on some of the matters that we've been working on behalf of the district. We are continuing to represent the district in connection with the matter with Desert Water Agency and working in furtherance of the conditional settlement between the parties. And we've been, as I mentioned earlier, working with the consultants on the financial and other due diligence in connection with the conditional settlement. We've also been representing the district in a dispute with Master Meter over failed water meter registers. We've also worked with the district on compliance with SB 998, which was item today, 10 in your agenda today, and then working with the district on converting to election by division and just assisting staff and working with the demographer on that. And so I won't be here on Tuesday when you take that up. It'll be Grace Garner, who has significant experience working with that process, and so she'll be here in my place on Tuesday. And then also assisting district staff with responding to Public Records Act requests. And then we also assisted the district in responding to a subpoena in a case that didn't really involve the district. It was third parties in a dispute, and they subpoenaed some records from the district. And so we had to review those to make sure that they could be produced. And then we also assisted the district in connection with some questions that arose as a result of the water damage to this building. And I think that's it.
Thank you. General Manager's report?
Okay, just two things. I want just to let you know that we did go out exactly when we said we would do to try to get bids on what it would cost to do the work on this building, and we are going to get a report to you. I guarantee you we'll have something very finite for you in February. The bids were complicated, and so we expect to have something by February. And we've been working on it. You did get kind of a thorough report in my general manager's report. So with that said, that's all. I just wanted you to know that we will have that to you.
Are we still like praying that it doesn't rain?
Well, yes, and we do have this firm that, for the contractor that will come in and help us if we do have a rain. And we've checked the building, we're making sure it's safe for the employees, but
the
this
roof's not
building
safe
is
yet.
in pretty, the building is in pretty sad shape, yes. Okay,
Say that again, building is in pretty what shape?
sad shape.
Sad, okay. I thought you had said safe, and I was like, what?
No. And I just found out today that I will be gone the first week in February, probably tentatively. My friend is doing well, he's going to come up and see us. So I wanted to announce that I'll be gone that week. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. We don't have any.
We don't have any meetings. I scheduled this so it would not interfere with my work.
The director's comment.
Well, on this,
Yes.
Randy, go ahead, Randy, what do you got? I'll listen.
Oops.
So are you going to read something?
I'm going to read something.
Maybe somebody would like to go first.
No,
Would you like to?
I have no comment.
How about you? You want to do your comment?
I did, on the manager's report. I noticed that, that's what we're going back to that, right?
Yes, it's your turn, yes.
We shut down 2 wells, and that did come up in a meeting. Well 28 was taken completely out of service, physically disconnected from the system.
We have discussed that.
Yeah, we discussed.
We have discussed that, yeah. That was,
A while back.
yeah, it was a while back. How long ago was that we took well 28 out of service?
I don't miss many meetings. I know that they've been discussed before, but this,
Go on.
Director Brown, it wasn't necessarily an item on the agenda exactly, but it was discussed as well 28 started to have a decline in its capacity. We were running it in place of well 24 when it was being rehabbed, and we discussed several times, in a few different times, that there was no need to renew the WRT uranium filtration contract that's tied to well 28 because of that well going offline. So there's a lot of cost estimated to be $150,000 just to find out what the issue is. So at this point in time, we've pulled it offline. It was only a backup well.
right.
We've never
So
used it.
we're not doing any uranium treatment now at this point?
Well,
At that facility now.
Okay, so there's another one here, well 34, that we removed the uranium treatment system.
So our current operating...
Are there more than 2?
There's 3. There was well 20, which is a backup well, well 20, well 34, which the system has been offline as an approved process, an operating permit process with the State Water Resources Control Board for about 5 years, I want to say. And then our third well is well 26 out there in what we refer to as IDE, our zone area. Back to your question on well 34, the manufacturer, or the manufacturer WRT had been asked when they were removing the actual facility from well 28, they were also going to pick up the facility from well 34. It had been sitting there idle, could not be used, and they would have to completely replace it in order for it to have to go back into use. So back to well 28, that facility was already on the cusp of having to need a whole overhaul. So we weren't going to pay for an overhaul just to sit there when we knew nothing about what the well was going to need, and we didn't want to spend $150,000 without actually having some additional strategy discussion on that. So, but well 28 is offline.
The new well, I just remember there being almost we were redlining on the nerves, as I recall, when I guess this well was having trouble, or another one. And
well 42.
How are we making up the capacity for 2 wells dropping out?
So well 34 is not dropping out. It's been in operation without a uranium plant for years. Without the treatment. It's just removed the actual physical train that had been sitting there rotting in the sense. Well 28 was,
Is that testing, good now? Is that?
the uranium levels are within the maximum contaminant level. And the way that the permit reads is we have to obviously turn it off or put in retreatment back in place. And there is also an agreement that John Pinckney's office helped us. It's the second amendment to the agreement, the developer's agreement, that specifically spells out exactly what's going to happen. Timing, location, and what facilities have to go in place, temporary facilities, if we ever do receive a maximum, we exceed the maximum contaminant level. So there is a large plan in place for that. But that well has not had treatment for over 5 years. We
And
just
has it been
removed it.
testing good for those years?
Naturally, yes.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, that's interesting. I wonder where that stuff went. All right.
It's still there. It's just not exceeding the limit.
Right. So if you shut the well off for 6 months and you start it up again, the numbers are going to shoot through the roof.
Well, we don't know that.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just, the numbers were higher 5 years ago. I know things can shift around, but that's an interesting.
It's just as interesting as the phenomenon as why there's actually uranium there and not another. So I don't know the answer to
Yeah,
that.
we just have, but we're working, towards a long-term.
The basin is like a bathtub.
Yeah, well.
It's tipped up like.
Yeah, but we're, this basically, we look at all of this and we can move water around. It's like an air traffic control.
Did I
issue
answer
during
your
the-
questions, though? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm still curious about things, but I don't know.
There are things we're curious about as well, but as far as well 42, you asked about something I think I don't.
Well, I was just
well
surprised to see one dropped out completely and removed from
Yeah,
surface.
28 was always a backup well to 24. It was put in place. We required it to run full time while 24 was rehabbed. Well 42 is actually being. We're working towards the construction and completion so that we can have a true backup, not have the issue that we have.
Is there a plan for that well site? I think it's 28.
When you say plan,
The physical appearance of the well site, to me, seems to be less than adequate for where it sits. I don't know, if I lived there and I had to drive out of the gate every day and see that, I would wonder, why doesn't the water district take better care of that?
Well,
And I don't know what.
we're not using it. So
Well,
we
that's
haven't
right,
been,
but
so.
we still, it's still an eyesore. It's not
Well-
attractive. It's not an attractive well site. Can we
Spruce
take
it
it
up.
back to, well, either that or maybe take it back to the desert. I don't know if we're not using it.
Okay.
Director Rocha, I'd be happy to
If
look
you
into
lived
it.
there and you had to look at it, it would be nicely landscaped.
Well, I'm
or
just saying
something.
that
What-
I
Madam
don't live
President-
there and it's not,
I'm not talking about.
but I was up there the other day, and that well site.
Madam President, if I may, there is a well that's been offline for a number of years. It's well 30. I want to make sure there's no confusion there. So outside of this meeting, if I will be allowed.
Yeah, we're getting off.
I just want to make sure we're talking about the same
Off
subject.
subject here, yeah.
General Manager, if I may,
Well,
let me know.
this is his comments, and that's what he's been doing through his
Sure.
comments, is asking these questions, so.
Sure.
General Manager Wallen,
Yeah, we'll be glad to take you out and show you how this works.
I can show you a map and make sure we're talking about the same physical location, because there is a.
We may be
Across
talking
from,
about-
Mission Lakes entrance. Mission Lakes.
On the south of
On
Mission
Lakes
Lakes.
Boulevard.
Yeah, and that is well 28.
That's 28, yes.
I took a picture of it because I was like, what happened to the treatment?
I'll work with staff. I'll definitely take a look. There's some items specifically I can get with the general manager and find out.
We'll
afterwards.
see.
I know for safety purposes and security, years and years and years ago, we tried landscaping around the well, so what ended up happening was the kids and vagrants and whatnot would go in there,
Cover.
and it would cover it, and so the police couldn't see, so we kind of stopped doing that.
If I may, we are actively going out site to site. I actually stated to staff about a month ago that when I did a tour with Brian, I was satisfied with a lot of the way that a lot of the sites looked. It may be that we're not at that site yet, so.
Well, when you took the treatment canisters out, which were large, which
Mhm.
took up a lot of real
They're under the
estate,
canopy?
now you've got a canopy with, for no reason there. It's like, it just looks very undone to me, and like I said, I don't know. If I was a
We had the
neighbor,
option to keep it. It was something that they either could take it down, and we're just not sure because of not knowing what we're going to do with that
Right.
site.
I get
We didn't
that.
want to pay the cost if we were going to go ahead and put it back in service, but I'll take a look at that and get with the general manager.
Picture yourself driving out of that place. They pay, the condos pay $600 a month to take care of their grass. They just, you know.
Fair enough,
I
I'll
know we
definitely
have
take a look at it.
But
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, Randy, your turn.
Mr. Pinckney, that summons you was given did not include the district as a personal matter between myself and Director Gracia. The statement I'm about to read,
I don't think you know how it works.
the statement I'm about to read is my opinion in defense of the district, much along the same lines. For 3 months leading up to the October 17th study session, Mission Springs Water District was host to a team of auditors and certified public accountants, or CPAs, from the accounting firm of London Guthrie, LLP, for the annual financial audit, which was done in accordance with government auditing standards. During those 3 months, that team of auditors and CPAs interviewed our finance director, Matt McHugh, a CPA, accounting manager, Arturo, I can't pronounce his last name, also a CPA. They had access to our books and records, including accounts receivable, accounts payable, our checking account, our investments, loans, bonds, payroll budget, cash flows, and more. At that October 17th study session, Gary Dack, a certified public accountant with London Guthrie, gave a review of that audit to the board of directors. He praised Matt for his impeccable records and for earning the district over $1 million from our investment over the last year. Gary gave the district a no opinion for the audit, which, as funny as that sounds, is CPA language for the highest grade possible.
Well,
At the October 21st board meeting, the board of directors, as it sits here today, voted unanimously in favor of accepting the audited financial statements. On December 20th, 2019, only 2 months after that very intensive audit, Steve Gracia wrote the following on Facebook. Why did the board of directors of the Mission Springs Water District secretly launder $300,000 in cash through this nondescript storefront located in a strip mall in Desert Hot Springs? The larger question is, why did the owner of this scheme flee to drug cartel-controlled Jalisco, Mexico, as soon as I started asking questions about this? That was the end of his quote. There was some back and forth conversation between Director Gracia and a couple of commenters, to which Gracia replied, because they are on the receiving end. They have been looting the district for years. This was only 2 months after Director Gracia voted unanimously with the rest of the board to accept that auditor's report. The auditing team of CPAs I mentioned earlier camped out in our offices and conference room for 3 months and gave us an impeccable rating. Steve Gracia made that statement 2 months later and did not consult with our general manager, the finance director, the accounting manager, the front-end manager who handles all our cash, hasn't reviewed any of our books and records, spoke with any of the ladies in customer service, and knows nothing about accounts receivable or accounts payable for the district. During the thread of conversation on Facebook, Steve also said, need to get to the truth no matter what. Steve, the truth of the matter is you are lying. You know it, I know it, and the rest of this board knows it. These are my comments.
Of any size.
In fact,
To hire consulting, and what was it for, and where did the money go?
You're out of order, Steve.
He's out of order.
You are out
He's
of order.
attacking a sitting board member, and you're not calling
You
him.
are out of order, Steve. This is
And
his
that-
comment period.
All right.
Nobody bothered you during yours.
In fact, you have been successfully sued and proven to be a habitual liar in court, twice in just the last 4 months. 3 times if you count the appeal you lost, where the judge's decision was reaffirmed. Today you have been served with another summons to appear in court and be held accountable for the statements you made to this board on December 20th and several other statements you've made over the past year. Stop lying and become a productive member of this board. You have your seat. You are a director. Start acting like one. Stop lying about me. Stop lying about this board. And more importantly, stop lying about Mission Springs Water District. And Madam President,
Are you
with
denying,
your
if
permission.
you were under oath
I
right
would
now,
like
would you
the-
deny that you wrote a check?
Out of
to anyone?
order.
I didn't write any checks. With your permission, I would like to give this to Dory and have it entered
And what
into
did
the
they do
record.
with the money?
Okay, if nobody else has any questions, meeting adjourned.
Explain it to the judge. Tell him how guilty I am. I think I told you why.
I think you did too.
Get used to it.
Of course, I'm marking back, is it?
Yep, I get that.
Want to keep an eye on, make sure no malfunction.